Grace.
Grace don't read it right.
Okay, it's like this. All right. Okay. Yeah. So we are in chapter. We just done chapter 4. We are doing chapter 5 now. Page 24. I'm going to rush it. So how it's done is you just listen, give all the necessary feedback, and then ask questions. You can write down your questions. Feel free to also stop me if you hear something that um, catches your fancy. You want more in-depth analysis on whatever it is you heard. I'm going to stop and then explain what happened here. We good?
Yep.
Slam it. The anomaly. Are you there? Yeah, there. So just to be sure that you are following, when I get to, there's some parts I will really like the former governor's speech where he would say something and be like, for instance, let me give an example. If he didn't do, he didn't. Just to make sure that you're following, that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so
I'm not conversant with all this stuff.
no, you are going to be conversant with the book. Okay, yes, we are live. We are live. Okay. The anomaly, chapter 5. It won't be long before everyone around me noticed that something seemed off about me. If you run into me any day, you will find me mostly muttering to myself in a bid to memorize my poems. To add to the madman effect, my hair was naturally brown and lackluster. I left it to grow long, shinless, and tousled. It told its own haggard story of the life of a poet who found no point in looking good, who wanted to just perform poetry, who dreamed that one day his luck would shine and a big firm like MTN would give him a surprise call one early morning and offer him 5 billion naira to come and do an advert for them. Well, that only happened in my head. All the big breaks that I dreamt of. I had a head full of wishful thinking. There was neither room for fashion nor love at the center of my social, non-childish, and literary studies. So I would become like my father's elder brother, who was the richest and most influential man in the family. I decided to tread that path since it would make them glad. That was all that mattered. Everyone else's happiness but mine. I would forget birthdays too, since I got no wake-up calls from home to wish me long life and prosperity. What was the point of a broken life getting unnecessarily elongated? And one of my cousins, a gang leader, enraged at my condition, had offered to squash the life of the lecturer, especially because the lecturer had sworn that over his dead body will I ever graduate. Hence, this beloved gang leader cousin of mine was always in the facade of my house with his friends, asking me for his name. Everything and everyone were driving me crazy. This was in the era of the To-Go instant messaging app. I was surprised that I never knew about the existence of such mobile app until Favor Ben, my cousin, told me about it. They had recently returned from Lagos because her father received a revelation from God to come to the village and open a ministry. Like God literally told him to come down here and choose a pauper's life when I was doing everything to run away from the village. Now, wow, this life no balance. Anyway, she told me about Poets Room 1, where she said I could meet people that are like me. I was excited, like Elijah hiding away in the cave who thought he was the only prophet alive, still worshiping the Lord. I thought I was the only poet alive. I joined the room, and it was amazing what happened there. Actually, the bulk of it were boys making passes at girls, using punchlines and all, and people cursing themselves using literary devices and writing dark poetry about things I could relate to. Nonetheless, I found home there. It became my other room. I would charge my phone all day in the game house I owned just to be on to go. I would welcome people online and tell them bye when they left. Not only that, but I would plead with them to stay before they go silent, to not leave me behind alone or keep me waiting. Basically, I was bonding with unseen faces with their funny pseudonyms: High Priest, Pantera, Blue Adonis. I had my funny name too. I was called Explosion, and it was easy to go explosive with popularity. Furthermore, I grew quite attached to these people, always smiling into my phone, relishing the unrivaled joy their company gave. Not only that, but I would later extend our virtual friendships and initiate physical meetings, the feelings of camaraderie usually lasting for a while. Though a fashion aborigine with brown, bushy hair, talking to himself and peering into his phone might not complete the picture of dementia until a thing called depression sets in. I didn't wake up one morning thinking, okay, now I'm depressed. It started with the awareness that I was mostly sad. It was not how much I had or not. I was not just broke. I realized I was broken. Hence, I couldn't visualize any happy future. And then it sounded strange when people said they loved me. It was obscene and fascinating, and seemed like I was living the exact lies they were telling when they spoke of such deep affections. Girls made me Girls made advances at me. I was paranoid about relationships. When a girl tells me she loves me, I would laugh her to scorn. Like, who was doing this one? Are you sure you know what you are saying? Do you think I'm capable of love? I felt as though it was anathema to even date anybody. I would withdraw into so unseen a cocoon if any girl as much as smiled at me. Some times ago, I had prayed against erections. It was that bad. One day, my dad called me and told me about Rhythm FM, but Harcourt's poetry on radio broadcast. He said to try them out since I did what other chaps did there. I called the radio station. They said I would have to audition for a spot to get chosen. I agreed. They picked a date. When I got to the station on said date, the girl I met as one of the judges was somebody I had had a funny altercation with. Once upon a time, she was the one who knocked me down from behind with a car on my way back from a church audition. Not even the two 500 naira notes she dropped on the ground, where I refused to get up, slightly because I was furious with her and hugely because I was ashamed of my hungry stamina was enough to appease me. I had left her peace offering on the ground there and continued on my way. Now, what was fate up to bringing this same girl across my path? I had a sketchy memory of her, and I hoped she didn't recognize me too. That was not to happen. It was her who walked up to me after the audition. You did very well, Graciano, so you can speak English very well. Why? Yes, now. Well, the last time we spoke, you were blathering in pidgin and threatening fire and brimstone like one area boy like that. I knew I had been made, so I smiled and cocked my head to the side like I was wont to when I had nothing to say. Are you sure it was you who wrote that poem? She asked. I nodded. Wow, she was marveled and impressed. She took my number and boom, relationship started. This good lady would call to check on me and send airtime for me to reciprocate her calls when I made excuses of a broke man that I was. In fact, I was not broke, I was broy because I couldn't afford the 1K in broke. As usual, I knew it was time to run. I became scared of the feminine attentions poetry fetched me. Altogether, in a space of years, I had 21 of such girlfriends. Some of them I met online, most on Tugo, some covering distances to meet me. If I were some skirt chasing Casanova, maybe this would count as something. However, something remained constant: my disinterest in the brimming affairs. I had other interests. I was seeking some form of proof that I was capable of love, but I kept failing because these girls were virtually the broken-hearted looking to mend something I was psychologically incapacitated to accomplish. At this stage in my depressive state, I was inexperienced, overtly religious, disciplined by parents who got tired of my discipline, and unapologetically celibate. Some of these girls who were interested in just having sex with me as a form of commitment couldn't get what they wanted. To them, I was either gay or a diabolical man who had sworn never to touch a woman to remain successful. This last theory was the funniest of all. At a point, see me see success now. Just like many recent writers' dark times, my depression came with the usual ideation of self-murder, only that mine came with a certain prevarication. I wanted to die, but I didn't want to feel any pain. I mean, I wanted to die in peace and in one piece. Obviously, that was impossible because I once got a gun but lacked the guts to shoot myself in the head. I googled about the piercings of bullets into the skin and how much damage it caused. It wasn't something I wanted for myself. A man just have to go. A man just have to go painlessly. You know, I figured I couldn't pull any suicide by my own hands. Of course, I knew it was transgression to take one's life according to my religious dictates. So I planned for a second party to carry out the deal without them knowing. I had a death wish. At least my righteous self will wink foolishly at God on the last day, like, hey, Creator, you and I know that I did not kill myself. Oh." I would cross busy traffic without looking, hoping to get a good hit by an overspeeding driver. But the many instances it happened, they turned out to be very good with their brakes. Next, I tried stray bullets. Two gangster groups were trading gunshots in Owerri in December when everyone scampered into the safety of their homes, praying that the skirmish ends with without any casualties. I walked casually between the two factions facing off themselves along my hoping a bullet or more will just do the quick job. That mission failed too. I tried to get hewn down by hemp smokers or night muggers in the dead of the night when I would intentionally return late from an outing. These two would chicken out, call me Cochila, and scamper off. The last frustrating attempt at dying was joining village politics. I had no interest in my community association, but the moment somebody mentioned it was a dangerous game and that people got killed for it, it suddenly became a lucrative venture. I vied for a secretarial position, hoping to get jazzed by some old man who slept with evil spirits. For where I won that particular election unopposed with the backings of our village hemp smokers who hailed me because Solution, a cousin of mine, bought them weed of 2,000 naira in my name as a campaign strategy. I've also tried getting killed by an infamous vigilante man in my village whose family was dreaded for his possession of charms. According to the constitution of the youth body in my village, there were penalties for what he had done. I didn't make the rules, but because I was the one who read them, the man threatened to run me down with evil medicine for making him face the penalties of attempted rape in public. He didn't know I already had a death wish, and dying by his hand was exactly my intention. Afterwards, an abandoned Hausa bred guy. After all, was an abandoned Hausa bred guy who everyone called so doing in the village, whiling away his life playing local politics. What did I care? I ran headlong into his waiting arms, hoping he would strike me dead. Again, the man could not fulfill my unspoken wish. I would wake and find small caskets in front of my room with a dead chicken whose neck has been severed from its body. I'll take the caskets outside, bless God for giving me free firewood, and I'll make soup with the chicken. Like I'm a leper, death avoided me. Finally, sometime in 2017, a year after I lost Auntie Lucy, I wanted to set myself ablaze. Her death had hit me worse than what I felt daily, knowing my parents basically had disowned me for my failures. A death by fire certainly should be the climax of my crucibles, the ultimate epilogue to my trials. That evening, hiding away in a tricycle owned by one of our neighbors, I bathed myself with enough petrol to barbecue my soul, muttered a curse to my chi, and held a lighter over my head, awaiting ignition and eternity. Chapter 5 done. Any question? Yeah, Adeni. Adeni, the unique pen. He says, Graciano, the poem sorcerer, my favorite storyteller. This is so heartwarming, heartfelt. Gracias. Please feel free to ask questions. Feel free to ask questions. Oh, thank you for the love. My eyes were glued to the screen, so I didn't get to know that there were a lot of people watching. Okay, so chapter 6. No question. If I do like I'll do like my math teacher and say I'll ask questions too. What's up? Yes. Come and have the book. Yes, you can. You know what to do now. Okay, so we're going to chapter 6 quickly. Let's save time. Chapter 6 is titled Slammed. Hit it. Amidst the intermittent pang of depression, a chance presents itself at turning away from the shadows. From gloom and despondency, something strays your eyes from looking down on yourself, stays your hand from doing harm to yourself, and someone prays that your soul glances upward towards elevation to see the silver lining in the gray sky. Until you see was that someone when she was alive, and her voice was that something for me. When she passed on that night, I had nearly created a hell for myself. It was a vivid voice, as loud and crystal as day, that stilled my dejection. I could hear her clearly. If you die now, how would you know you later became successful in the future? How would you know you would later become successful in the future? The rhetoric hit me with tummy wrenching nausea. I dropped the lighter, ran into my room, and cried in the shower while washing off the chokiness of a near miss. It is true, I mused to myself. It's better to hang on than to just hang. However, I wept that the personification of my poetic muse had suffused into an obscurity darker than my depression. She was not coming back. My persona of sustenance, she was not coming back. It was Auntie Lucy who sponsored my trip to Abuja in 2012 so I could walk on Africa's biggest poetry stage, the African Poetry Slam. Unfortunately, I would miss my performance because I had missed the first round of the slam. People had already been kicked out, and the emergent candidates were ready for the second round. I wept. Not Jeremiah Giang singing for himself and Popular Asa could cheer me up. The tears were for Auntie Lucy, who I failed to bring back that trophy for because of my unprecedented tardiness. She was my only sponsor and support, both as an individual and as an artist. I was so sure of victory. DK Chukwumerije won it though, while Lady Inspirologo and Uche Uwadnachi were runners up, and I did not even get to slam at all. Now I found out her demise dawned with a different kind of depression upon my person. Usually, people would think only unaccomplished creatives wallow in depression. It is not a totally true assertion, because that year I wanted to literally set myself on fire. I had been reckoned I've been reckoned twice in a row to be the number one Nigerian contemporary poet. I was about on the top list of 100 successful poets in Nigeria below the age of 40. I had numerous paying writing gigs and a handsome amount of cash in my bank account, so I was no more your regular broke guy. However, the loss of my aunt imbued me with this mind-numbing loneliness and the impression that no one else around me merited to celebrate my victories. Persons who celebrated me now made their entrance after I had attained a level of fame. Auntie Lucy was my only fan when I had nothing, when I was nothing. For a fact, if there was any lesson this missed slam of 2012 taught me, it was how very impoverished I was, both in status and exposure. After it became obvious, I was no longer participant in a coveted contest. The organizers of the slam gave me 3,000 naira and lodged me in Transcorp Hilton Hotel, Abuja. I was to spend the night with one other guy from Ibibio who got kicked out of the contest earlier in the day. Looking at the little wand of cash, it dawned on me I didn't have enough to fare myself back to the east. Considering this was the Transcorp of the high and mighty, the money wouldn't be enough to fetch me a decent meal within the facility. For the first time in my life, I felt imprisoned in a hotel room. It was a cold, frosty cell with an air conditioning set to kill and no bed, or so we thought. We made futile attempts at trying to switch off the AC or set it to normal at least. Wait, oh, is it because we did not win anything that these people lodged us in a room without bed? Meko no go kill us, oh, my companion complained. I clutched tight to myself with whistling breath and chattering teeth. I had caught a cold when I performed in Napoli, Italy. All my dream was to win the contest, grab the handsome cash prize, give me a tour of the town, nap in a pool with a glass of smoothie in hand, and later on treat myself to a good meal. Now here I was trying to breathe through a mouth dry by hunger and thirst and cold. Oh boy, maybe one of these remotes is for the air condition. My BBO companion pointed at a pack of controls by the side pool. He grabbed one, aimed at the split unit above, and pushed the button. No beep. Nothing happened. He tried several more remotes, the same result. Boredom created a game of luck, and I was a willing participant. See, one touch, I will pick the right remote. Just watch. I picked one of the remotes and long pressed a button. The aircon beeped in reply. We shouted in excitement, "Hey, hey! Was I not the lucky guy? Come on." I continued pressing to increase room temperature, even though the room remained cold. We celebrated the beep. It was awesome. Until the walls started hitch, they folded up to become a part of the bed, and both transported and gripped with fear. Oh boy, what have we done? Make it no be say we don't burn down this building, he said and made for the door. I followed, and in a minute we were hurtling down the stairs into the reception hall, seeing a group of foreign men lounging in the bar section, scampering for safety. The receptionists were furious. What's wrong with the both of you? Is this a prank or what? Do you know those men on those tables are having drinks worth 600,000 naira a glass? And you want to scare them away? This was when foreigners were being kidnapped in Nigeria. Obviously, 85% of the people the receptionist was referring to were foreigners, and I could only understand his worry. I did not know if I should exclaim his last comment or apologize for being a technical aborigine. From his accent, my companion could tell the receptionist was from his tribe. He explained to him our predicament in a dialect they both understood. Godwin and my uncle, who my parents wish I took after, would later teach me to always ask the hotel staff how to use every equipment within my room before he or she leaves. Soon after, we are getting admonitions on how to request for housekeeping should we have any difficulty in using the. Obviously, the entire equipment here had sensors for everything. You just had to do the right thing. Like in the case of flushing the toilet, all we needed to do was pull and slam the door, and the toilet would flush itself. But no, I had to spend close to an hour in the toilet the next morning looking for the handle of the flusher to pull. There wasn't even a bucket to fetch water from the shower to flush it traditionally. It was embarrassing and enlightening all the same. How I gave up. I just closed the door to shut away my atrocious poo, only to hear the toilet start flushing itself. Oh, there's a sensor for that too. I felt poor in all ramifications, in exposure and expense. All we could afford for dinner that night was a weightless mold of baked flour that was too big for its price, or just big for its size of bland nothingness. If you consider the smaller stuff was the costliest and of course the tastiest. The hotel was so expensive, we couldn't even afford a small bottle of water. One of the foreign guests we had frightened not quite a while ago offered us a big bottle of water when I was almost wishing to drink out of a fountain at the reception hall. It was like an experience I wish not to have a recap of. But there will be more of such events, of sad reminders that I was nothing. I sold my phone so I could ferry myself back to Owerri to tell my tales of woe to Auntie Lucy, who I was certain would have nothing but a smile and a word of encouragement to spare. That was how much she meant to me. So much. It was through her my parents had to reach out to me when Reverend Mario Salugwe thought it was high time we mended our broken relationship. Someone had to pretend to forgive and forget. That someone would be me. It was time to return to Port Harcourt, to the bacha my parents lived in, to empty pots and the uncertainties of the next meal. It was time to return to nothing. Um, the unique pen. Losing someone you adore is a very bad experience anyone could go through, especially someone that is there throughout the transformation. Rest well until you see. Amen. Matt the poet, indeed a real experience. Okay, so please feel free to ask questions or react. I'm going to read it here. Just so you know, we are going to post this video and possibly promote it. So whatever you say, all the mentions are going to remain here. The mentions of the names and all of those who said what they said, I'm going to mention them. Oh, yes. Confidence says, wow. My main channel.
YouTube.
Yes, YouTube and Instagram.
Okay.
It was a time to the contest. Yeah. All right. So we are headed to chapter
There's a question on
7.
this one.
What is the question? Read it
Question
to me.
is from me. Sorry, we can't type it. Okay, well, my question is: did you ever get over, or rather, have you gotten over Auntie Lucy's death?
No, I haven't. It's one of those cases where you don't really heal, but you know that the more you try to heal, the more you get hurt. So you just have to move on. Even the recent death of one of my boys who was 30 years old. He died in 2021, 22 October. So I've not even recovered from that one. Talking about Auntie Lucy's own. So, but if truth be told, if we are being honest, you want to be realistic. People would hardly, if it really hurts you, you will not get healed. You just move on because life has to move on. You understand? The problem with that is that if it's a heartbreak caused by someone, people that come in that frame, you would think that they are like that person too. I can't even begin to tell you how much I have avoided people who are trying to be kind to me, like Chijoke, because I don't want them to die. In fact, somebody else died afterwards called CJ, and I avoided every other CJ coming close to me.
That's what I was saying, but if you are avoiding people who are kind, that means it's my job not to be evil. This is my origin story.
It's not the
How
origin
did you
story of
bring
Cyber.
All right. So let's just move on then. Somebody says nobody. Let me read it. Nobody really gets over the death of. Yeah, very true. Very true, Uchechi. Very true. Uchechi, that's so Igbo. I like Igbo names. Uchechi. That's God's will in Igbo language, right? Am I correct? Okay, chapter 6, chapter 7. Hmm?
Rivers people, they bear the name.
Yeah.
That's the only person that has to
Okay, chapter 7. This is titled War of Words, and it goes thus. Port Harcourt, 2013. On Rhythm 93.7 FM, I was a radio poet, where I met lots of people who hired poeting groups. For them, an individual had no face, no name, and bespeaks of boredom. So they preferred to hoard all of us into an event and introduce us as those people where they talk plenty for radio. That way, it sounded richer and more dignifying than bringing just one person. It was not so cool for me. But what's a boy to do? In fact, I prefer this to similar situations where they refer to us as poems, where they do poets, to which I never get tired of correcting before performing my poems by saying, thank you very much for introducing us as poems, where they do poets. Hope there are musics here that are about to do musicians. These kind of jokes are the ones that are barely understood until after people get home. This was not Owerri, where I had made a name, where Graciano was a sensation. No, here, 18-year-old Aquila Calabar was the craze of poetry at the moment. One of such occasions, I will be tagged to perform with him, the young spoilt boy fighting fiercely, a battle I could well relate to, though on a different war front. That day, after we did a single poem, the organizers asked us to go home. No money, no food, no hype, no event. Basically, they asked everyone to go home. It was when we got outside that we figured we had no transport fare. We decided to trek the distance that late, a little worried that we might encounter muggers in that long walk down the boulevards of Transamadi. I bonded with Aquila, although I was quite older. The themes of our experiences were almost similar. In summary, we were hermits running from our yesterdays into a tomorrow that spoke only of hardships, breakthroughs, or rebellion. Rebellion is refusal, even when your parents push you to go face your academic fears, to sit for exams which some lecturers 4 years ago thought making your script disappear was a just comeuppance for a rebellious publication written in your column. It is deciding to stick to poetry even when it had been proclaimed to be an accursed venture from the lips of the man who sired you. My associations with Aquila led me to attend an event where I met Sunes Nathaniel Scholes, who told me about War of Words. He had been impressed with 12 million nonsense, a certain piece I'd rendered at the university, an event organized by one of Aquila's friends who had won the second edition of War of Words. I think this piece will win you a prize in the slam holding in Lagos. Do you even know what a slam is? The young fair social media whiz boy asked, giving me a look at I had got so many times from people who think I had never been in better situations. I wanted to tell him I knew what a slam was and that I had recently missed one, which I could have won if I hadn't been so jinxed by fate. I wanted to tell him I was a big boy when it came to this business, but then I realized if I really was somebody, I wouldn't be gloating right now. I will send you the link to apply for the slam, he said. The Android phone I was holding. He saw the Android phone I was holding. I had got the new phone with the money I raised from ghostwriting 6 books in 2 months for a respected clergyman, partly a condition of my homecoming to live with my parents. Sunes was impressed. The poets I know usually don't have good phones. Hence, they can't put their names out there. You see, nothing happens in literary sphere, especially among the big guns, without any hearing of it, he said. Without knowing it, the young man had let me into another big secret, and that was the power and effectiveness of social media in the publicity of any creative. In fact, a few months later, getting into the War of Words stage, it was exactly what played out. The popular ones on the media were the favorites. Theirs were not just names, they were brands and bios and brawling comments known by pressmen, whereas I was just Graciano, the Italian poet. It was easy to rule me off as a strong opposition. I liked it because from my experience as a footballer and then a football club manager, going into a competition as an underdog is one easy way to catch everyone by surprise. Everything you do will be quite fascinating. To appropriate this in my looks, I had to cut my hair and packed simple wears with me to maintain a low profile and appear quite unassuming. When I looked at my image in the mirror, I looked like sorry, made flesh. At the bus park on departure to Lagos, Aquila was skeptical too. What if we do not win? I can't even begin to imagine what would become of my relationship with my family. I could imagine mine. Not only that, but I was already in a deep mess, but I wasn't one to dwell on negativities. My father had vehemently refused I go for the competition, saying his spirit would not go with me and that I would hit a hard wall. It was an absurd thing to say because I had never needed his spirit. Does your spirit know what metaphor is? I'd asked him the previous day during the ensued argument. No, I thought as much. This was me trying to cancel his pessimism in what would never be his course. It was me trying not to have a repeat performance of ill luck when a few years ago he had unintentionally cursed my football career, saying it would never bring food to my table. I would break my knee 3 days afterwards, and that would be bye bye, bright soccer future. I guarded, I guarded him on. Daddy, does your spirit know what a monorhyme is? The puzzled look on his face was a piece of evidence that he didn't know where I was going with all this skirmish of irrelevant questions. Again, he answered, no. So obviously, your spirit does not even know what the theme of this slam is, what Nigerians want. I shook my head. 12 million nonsense, Dad. I don't need your spirit. Try stopping me. I walked off, waiting for other passengers to fill the Lagos-bound bus. I told Aquila to focus on the positives, like what he would do if he won. He fantasized about a good life, the new Samsung Galaxy S4, sensation, Android sensation, everything, anything but failure. Aquila again persisted. But how are you sure we are going to win now? I looked at the boy with whom I had become so acquainted that his victory can be considered mine and mine his. I didn't have any moment of disbelief in myself. The poem I had written to suit this theme, suit the theme of the slam might be nonsense, but it was a piece of everyone who had first heard, had who had first, who at first had wanted to perform, who at first had wanted me to perform again and again, and I thought it would fetch me 12 million victories because I willed it. By the sweat underneath our armpits, we are sure. My reply, deliberately advertising and poetic, caused him to brighten up. He chased me around the bus, cracking at the creativity of the words I had just dropped. To the amazement of other passengers, for a moment, We were just two playful kids, having no care for the wiles of this world. I left for Lagos with nothing but 8,000 naira, a borrowed fare, the good wishes of every other person who cared to know that we are going to Lagos to win a slam. I won that slam. War was 3. 12 million nonsense was the winning piece. And guess whose call first buzzed into my phone to congratulate me? My father's. Word. Tehila, word. Question. Are your parents now in support of your choice of career? Why wouldn't they? Even now, they build me. You're here now. They call me and beat me with gingering. Say, how far? You have not paid for this. As far as what you are doing pays the bills. Trust me, they will support you. Except if you are doing crime and they are not in support of crime. So long as what you are doing is legal, right, and it pays, they are going to be in support. Where the problem is that space between you trying to find your footing while you are trying to create something. You are trying to become, in that phase where you are trying to morph from being a caterpillar to a butterfly. That's where the problem is. You have not yet soared, you have not moved. So they are seeing it like, what is the potential of doing this? So, in as much as they love you, they don't know how to love you. So that's a very big problem with relationships these days. Even you see somebody saying, I love you, I know you love me, but that's not how I want to be loved. You are loving me so much that you want to protect me from what I want. That's not the love I want. The kind of love I want is the one that supports this thing that I want to do. Don't try to protect me. Sometimes your parents protect you from the things that stopped them. And the truth is that time and now are not the same. My dad wanted to be a musician. He was already performing with guitars, going like as you are walking around with guitars now, recording. What is that? So, but I don't know what happened. He stopped and then focused on engineering. And I believe a part of him is saying, I don't want my son to start something and then stop. But the problem is, or is it a problem, is that in my own case, that's the only thing I know how to do. I don't know how to do anything else aside playing football and writing poetry and performing poetry. So I have nothing to fall back to. So it's either here or here. So that's what he should have known. But I believe that sometimes these options, these encumbrances that they throw at you with so much love, of course, tries to test your resilience to see if really is this what you want to do. Like I said in my own case, I won't even lie. I tried to change. I tried to change, but there's nothing to change to. I tried businesses, all of them failed. There's nothing to change to.
Another word, but it's not. But it's like in creatives in Nigeria, or basically Port Harcourt. If just wait a
Go ahead.
Go for shit.
So for creatives in Port Harcourt, like say, let me give myself an example. I know before I lost my dad, maybe I can't really remember the age he started saying it, but he noticed I had natural likeness to writing songs and the rest of them. He was a mechanic. He didn't like music. My father could not sing for
Even though he hits
So, but he kept telling his friends and everyone who came around the house that once he gets money, he's going to send me to a music school. He knows that's the first thing he wants me to do, to go learn how to play music. But the creative space in Port Harcourt, or let's say Nigeria, how do you feel someone should focus more on building a career with the distractions of making money or trying to earn a living? And because you realize, okay, if I stay long on this thing, definitely to pay off. Sometimes you might stay on that thing for 2 years, 5 years, 6 years. Would you advise somebody to maybe if you stay for that period and you think you're not getting the results you want, should you stop to do something else, to use Hobele? Or would you advise someone to keep doing it?
So there are so many ways to look at it. I feel the biggest challenge that any artist will face is not being truthful to himself. I lied to myself while starting out, and those lies helped a bit. But then I noticed that there's too much of everything is bad. There's a way you're going to, okay, lying to myself in the sense that I knew where I was going to, so I had to dress and act like that person. But then I overdid it because I did not. You are supposed to dress like the future. You are supposed to walk like the future, but then you are supposed to interact with people around you in the present. Because, like I said in chapter one, every art is a people business. So you have to first of all tell yourself that, see, I don't believe humans are equal. Humans are not equal. We are never equal. So you have to first of all know what your level is in the grand scheme of things. If they say poets in Port Harcourt, for instance, where am I? If they say musicians, people that play guitars in Port Harcourt, where am I? Both in skill and in visibility. That's one. If you can know this, you have solved 80% of your problems. The remaining 20% is in what I'm going to say. If you can know this, then what you do is to say, those above me, how do I interact with them? How do I relate to them? Those at my level, those at my echelon, how do I relate to them? Those below me, how do I relate to them? The truth is, no matter how big you are, there's somebody that's bigger than you. People in Nigeria now pride in going to Dubai. You see them book tickets, return ticket to Dubai, and show off, take pictures. Yeah, they do like this and do like this and show bag they bought there. I bought it with 400 dinar. What is that thing called? Uh, the truth is, as funny as it may sound, here's your village.
Apua.
Yeah?
Right. O'Brien.
Your village is where?
Apua. Right.
Abua, right? Do you know that there are people whose village is Dubai? I'm not even joking. I mean their village.
Yeah.
The way some Ikwe people get me laughing when we are parking and going to their village, say during December they are like, I'm in my village, there's nowhere to go to. That's how some people are. Like they see Nigerians coming to their village to come and enjoy.
What's so special about it? It's just Nigeria.
Exactly. So they don't see. I'm talking about people who were born there. They don't see anything special. That's exactly how where you are headed is to most people that are bigger than you. So whatever it is you are targeting right now, look for those who have conquered it, who is their norm, and then volunteer to work with them. There was a time when going to radio was a big thing for me. You will see it here. I paid to go to radio just to talk. Right now, people call me to radio to come and talk. I charge them. I didn't ever believe that would be possible. You invite me to radio, I will now charge. How? How can you come? In fact, when you come to radio, I'll be asking you, so how much will I pay? Can I have money? So but that was my reality then. It's not like that now, So one of my students, well, I gave her an event to go and perform. 30K was what they wanted to pay. She said she's bigger than 30K. I was shocked. This was somebody I thought was nobody. I saw her write her first poem. So they invited me and they said all they had was 50K for me. And I said, okay, what we are going to do is, instead of you paying me 50K and it's not what I charge, let me give you two of my students. Pay 130, pay 120. They said, okay, I think we could do that. I said, good. So I called this person, that one accepted 20. This one, I collect your 30 now. She said, no. Let me call her name. Should I call her name?
No.
Okay, let me not call her name.
No.
So she said no, but it's not a bad thing, Sha. But she said no. I was surprised. Like, if you see me that day, because I thought I had settled everything, and there was nobody else to call. So but that made it very clear to me that, see, people need to understand their level now. Like, no, where are you in the grand scheme of things? So if you can settle that, people above you, you volunteer to work with them and support them.
I understand because I remember the first time I started when you asked me to join your team and how maybe my courage personally. I didn't think it was. I didn't understand the meaning of value, self worth. Not like in a bad
You were
way.
not recording them. You don't recording.
I couldn't tell. So, but I know how you question my identity certain times when people spoke to me. Was it at a place of worship at the time, or maybe interacting with people? And you would tell me, "Don't let them talk to you like that. Don't let them treat you like that." At some point, I felt maybe it was me being developing it.
That's okay.
Yes, pride, and I kept thinking. But at some point, I looked at people when it comes to assessing yourself and saying, "Okay, look at my skill level." I looked at people that were not as good as I was and how they carried themselves. Now I asked myself, what think that person wear for age when you carry yourself like that? If you listen to this, like somebody saying pidgin English in Nigeria here. So I asked myself those questions. Now, I think the first last quarter of 2023, coming to 2024, when I interact with people and I ask you a question, or you ask me a question about my services, or you tell me, okay, I want to work with you, and I ask you a question, I'm not trying to be arrogant or anything. I'm just being clear. I've worked hard on this thing. I've spent money, sleepless nights, trying to improve. And I know I've gotten to a certain level where what I offer is worth something. So you can't, like, if I walk on the road, somebody just come here.
Let me play your guitar.
I will take them. But these days now, if you just, I don't even look at
First
you
of all, you're not
because,
calling me.
like, you don't have respect.
So it's not in my name.
It's not my name.
So that self
Maybe you are
value.
trying to
Yeah,
call
that's
Susanna and you're
self-worth.
stammering.
So that self value for creatives, understand? Because I know creativity is not something you can always scale to say, okay, I've gotten to 200%. It's just once you get to a new stage and people are able to appreciate your art, people you looked up to, that's feedback for you telling you, okay, I've gotten better at this. So I think that self value, I can relate with it currently
Good.
now because I've worked on it consciously.
Then, secondly, those in your level, do you know what you should do with them? Collaborate.
Take them to Tinubu.
No, you collaborate with them. Those in your level, you collaborate with them. Those above you, you volunteer. Those in your level, collaborate with them. Then, no matter how small you think you are, there are people you are better than. The truth is, I don't know that you've noticed during when you were growing up, some aunts that has not visited for a long time, when they visit, they will look at you, they'll be like, this small girl don't grow finish. Oh." You know, you don't see, and you like, you grow, yeah, I grow. So the reason is because you got so used to yourself, you didn't see yourself growing. The same thing with your parents, even your parents don't even notice. It's very hard for parents that are always seeing you to notice that you are growing. You understand? Except if they have something to measure you with. But you don't see yourself growing. Like you just because you are so conscious. You're not conscious about the growth. You are so conscious about yourself. Every time you are seeing yourself, so you are used to yourself. You don't see yourself growing. That's exactly how it is too when it comes to skill as an artist. You grow, you improve every single day, so long as you are still doing it. There's a study right now that if you do anything for 4 hours, for complete 1 year, 4 hours, you'll be the best at it. If you can practice, if you can rehearse anything you are doing, just do it for 4 hours every day for 1 year. You'll be the best at it around you. So just imagine, and that's I've forgotten what it's called, but it's something about specialty when it comes to skill. You get it? So if you are doing something over and over again, you'll be shocked. There will be a time when you'll be interacting with people who do the same thing you are doing, and you are in your mind, you're like, how come you people don't know these things? That's growth that has happened. And that is where you are supposed to do what? Start teaching. Start supporting those you are above.
Okay.
So you support what I'm doing to you is what you should be doing to somebody else. So it's not a now I'm here, so let me start teaching. No. Neither is it okay, I'm just starting now, so let me just start learning. No. It's an all-round thing. As you are teaching, you are learning. As you are learning, you are teaching. You are also collaborating. That's how it works. If you can do this, you see that what will I eat is a no-brainer. You will eat. You will eat. During the pandemic, when we were in a lockdown, people that were driving only keke napep, my neighbors there, they dried up. Oh. They are, you know how resilient our spirits are as Africans, first of all. Talking of Nigerians. Their trousers, like, was, it became bongo because they lost weight and were almost going to die. But they survived. How did they survive? What is it called? I could not finish. I don't eat stale food. So when I'm done eating, I will give it to them. Even though we were quarreling at the time because they refused to pay. I was a caretaker. They refused to pay for some things before this thing happened. It's not like during when this thing was happening. So I went to them to take the monies and they embarrassed me. And I told them I'm not going to come again to take it. So it caused a lot of problems. They severed our power supply and everything. So I was their enemies literally. But during the pandemic, of course, I was feeling bad that people have not eaten. And me, I was going to throw away food. So I was looking for who to give it to feel good. That I've spent a lot of money and then I'm not eating. Then these guys were hungry. Of course, they needed food. There is nowhere to go to. Not even Toronto, nowhere to run to. So they had to. This was the only way they could feed. So we solved our problems. Me, I solved the problem of guilt. They solved the problem of hunger. You know, so the universe has a way of taking care of its own. As long as you're alive, you will survive. So you now, like I said, it's a challenge to challenge your resilience. If really this is what you want to do, you just continue what you are doing. Continue what you are doing. Just be doing it. Create out a particular time. Be disciplined with your time. Say this is what I want to be doing. Then interact. Interact using these coordinates I gave you. Above you, volunteer, collaborate. Then how don't, like, what is going to stop you from being successful? I want to see it. I want to see it. Even in the minutest of places, even in the north where there are hardly any this thing happening, just be aware of your environment. Every art is a people business. The problem most artists have is that they want to be very skillful, but they are not networking.
Okay.
And there are many people that are not good that are networking. You see them, you hear somebody say, you know this person, I know him. So he know you. Oh, no, me. Not how these people then they behave. They don't let they put person on. Who will put you on? You'll be the one to put yourself on. You get it? So that's how it works. So don't stop, but do the right things too. Do the right thing. If not, you will just be majoring on the minor and minoring on the major. That's a misplaced, what is it called? There's a thing called economy of efforts in the military. Economy of efforts. You do small and achieve a lot if you do it right. So put more effort in your this thing, but also put effort in the networking and network right. So you don't go and see so you can snap picture and rub his head. You know, people were doing it now. Somebody that is supposed to be your mentor, you now snap and do like this. Yeah, we are here, we are out here. Yeah, that's all of you are the same now. You are part of the out here. So what you have done is that you are saying that you don't need help from those that are supposed to help you. You are saying that you are equal to Soyinka. So now people are going to now laugh at you and say, "Oh, you snapped with Soyinka, but nothing come out." You know, that's what happened. There's a picture of somebody who did that, and in the picture, Soyinka was even surprised. He ran into a picture where Soyinka was. Soyinka was like, "Hey, what's going on?" They don't snap picture with them. So he came to us showing us his picture that he has made it in life. Look at the snap picture with Soyinka. Meanwhile, the idea is not to look rich in terms of relationship, is to be rich. It's not having the contact. You can have the contact of anybody. I have the contact of Burna Boy. I have the contact of MI. But do they have your own contact? That's the thing. If you call, will they take? Or will they say, hey, I don't call again? So you have to build that relationship. And if you follow these coordinates, the relationship will be built. If you follow these coordinates, know those above you. Don't go and say they're your friends. People that are supposed to be your grandfather, you call them friends. That's where the problem is. Those that are your the same level as you, you collaborate with them. Don't go and be calling them boss. It's not humility.
Okay.
No, it's not humility. You are bringing yourself down. No, be sure first. Let them be your level. You know that they are your level. Collaborate with them. There's something that they need that you want, that they need that you have. There's something you need that they have. Then both of you need something together. So that thing you need to, that's your meeting point.
We
Create
need-
something with
We
it.
are both needy.
Yeah. So create something together. You need fans. This person needs fans. This person is a musician. This person is a poet. Collaborate and do something together. You exchange. Is a marriage between your art and of course your fans. His fans becomes your fan. Your fan becomes his fans, and then people have created something that you can always come back to. Dan Dizzy, Prince Emmanuel, and Sammy Hart did a collaboration a long time ago, and Dr. Baz. See, four of them, they are big now. You know, they have all of them. They are all big. I think the smallest self is Sammy Hart, and as at then, he was the biggest. So when you collaborate with people that are your level, you'll be surprised. It will propel all of you at the same time. Nobody loses. Timaya said it, collaboration follow for promo. So yeah, I don't too much talk. Let's rush and continue. Okay. I'm surprised if people are still here. This is master class. Yes, so it's master class. Okay, the teacher in me is always coming out when I'm supposed to be reading the book. So we are still reading from Sticks and Stones, and we've read chapter 7. We are going to chapter 8. I think we are almost halfway through, and I'm going to rush it from now. Henceforth, going forward.
Going on henceforth.
Going on henceforth, going forward.
English is down.
From now, henceforth, going forward.
You want to interrupt the master? You want to correct the master?
Okay, guys. You please be reading this thing on Instagram. Let me see. You went offline.
Yeah.
You should be there always so that we'll know. Yeah, you do small and achieve a lot. Yes, Uchechi.
Okay, I'm back.
You're back like you never left. Back to the same old cleft.
Vijanja.
What is that?
Vijanja.
Oh, okay. We are back. Let's go. Chapter 8. Corals aren't always pink. For someone who is colorblind. Chapter 8. Corals aren't always pink. I was once part of a choir in a church in Rumamasi in Port Harcourt where I was most needed for my songwriting skill and not for my voice. I was badass at composing music, but I was bad at solos. So I was not a member of the choir for the singing part. In fact, the bass stand at the back both relegated and hid me away from the mic, and the real singers, I was not left alone, either by the female frontiers. They would badmouth and make jest of me for being tone deaf when I think I wasn't. This usually quickened my tempers, and no Jupiter could squelch my fury when I had been thus provoked. Now there's Julius, the oldest member of the Crow group. He was in his late 30s, whereas the rest of us were in our 20s. He was a bad dresser and a notorious sleeper, especially during evening rehearsals. Probably it was because of the nature of his job. He trekked long distances during the day to vend bottled water to commuters in traffic. Now, the funny thing about his personality was that there was nothing anyone ever said to him that made him angry, not even when the choristers made fun of his dressing or drowsiness. His benign nature was an attitude that earned him even more mockeries, and I would find myself being angry and lashing out at the rest of us in his behalf, while he sat in his place, smiling. It seemed as though there was nothing anyone could ever do or say that would get him nervous or infuriated. We were wrong. During one of the rehearsals, a lady said something quite demeaning to him. What she said was something minimal compared to the normal tongue lashing he received. It was not even enough to get me angry and defensive. To our utmost surprise, Julius flared up. The heat he raised in the church auditorium in the stillness of the night, was enough to quieten everyone else. Even the noisy mosquitoes paused for a bit. There was no sniggering or mock retorts, just respectable silence. I received the most shock. For the first time in forever, someone whom I thought never had an angry moment was venting. I thought he had had a bad day. However, I recalled we had come together to the practice and he did not mention anything of such. The next morning after vigil, I walked home with him and my curiosity got bed of me. So I asked him, Julius, Amarachi must have got you really furious, Abby. What did she say? Was there something she did earlier before she said that? His eyes shone as he differed. No, I was not angry. My brother, what do you mean you were not angry? You that almost pulled down the church roof on us. I was scared. Oh. In fact, the way you ranted last night, I feared you would hit her. His laugh was humorous, as sound and clear as the morning. He pointed to a raised slab on the pavement. Come, let's sit down there. We did. He tapped me on the leg and said, see, stood through, I was not angry. I pretended I pretended to be angry so I can protect myself from the savagery that should have followed after her comment. That's one. Two, there's this money I'm expecting, a very huge amount of money that should change my life. Now, I need to flare up at people at dusk when I'm poor so that at the dawn of my riches, nobody will say money changed me. I want to start now that I'm still everyone's poor brat to teach people how to treat me. Those were his exact words. And they have stayed with me until this day. Teach people how to treat you. From him, I learned to carry myself with so much dignity, even when my last kobo burned holes in my pocket. It was a heightened sense of self and esteem that people might want to misjudge as pride when they hear me calling anyone to order. You don't let people write their cow dung versions of you and still make you cower in public. When people hurl sticks at me, which is a positive of what life in its entirety has lashed at me, I learned to throw back stones, to push back with the harder substances of my entire being. Corals aren't always pink and lovely. They come in shades of red and fury too. That small talk I had with him validated my anger and impatience with people who sought to make a fool of me most of the time, especially in public. Persons who, for some reasons, thought I had nothing to offer because of my background. As I later noticed that whoever you condone becomes a tradition, whatever you condone becomes a tradition. It was also a moral booster, something that would later play out during one of my stage performances. You see, the Aztec event should have been the most embarrassing moment of my life on stage. That evening, the popular event center along Stadium Road, Port Harcourt, sat almost 2,500 people. This was in the times I wore cheap shoes and clothes that were bought for the sole purpose of longevity and not fashion. My shirts and trousers, which were usually oversized, must be worn, never to be outgrown. On stage, I was doing one of my pieces titled All Right. The rhymes flowed with unceasing fluency. Nobody should say all right until I've said all right, and everybody would go, all right. The darkest time of the night is the time closer to daylight, but these graduate learners, though bright, are left out of the job site. The monorhymes rose and fell, and with them, my feet stomped to the ground in rhythm. Everything seemed all right until I raised my right leg and started to feel all right. It happened that the sole of my shoe had given in to the wears and tears of life and giving way to a gaping defeat. A few more steps and it would be left behind the guffawing view of everyone focused on me on the spotlight. At this point, I was sure everyone had seen the damage. On the lips of 1,000 lovers of poetry, this would make a good headline. Shoe sole leaves behind the soul of Graciano. I thought fast. Damage control. If these people must make mockery of this moment, let me teach them how to laugh with their teeth tucked between their tongues. At exactly that intermission, when they were supposed to echo back my all right, I quickly bent down, pulled off my shoes, dropped them by the corner of the podium, and continued my rendition. For the remaining 4 minutes out of the 6 minutes I was given to deliver, I performed on bare feet. You can only imagine how ecstatic and wild that singular act through the crowd at the end of my second poem. In fact, throughout that event, artists who climbed the platform to perform took off their shoes as though in solidarity. It was mad. For a night, barefooted performance became a trend at Aztec. It reminded me of when, after my return from Italy, I constantly wore scarves around my neck due to the cold I caught over there. A group of admirers and critics called the Gracianos started wearing them too. You'll see the long-haired lot parade about campus on pink shirts, because I had the thing for pink shirts too, draped with these long shawls. Again, at the suggestion of one of my leadership one tutors, I decided to test how much of an influence I had become on social media. He had said stuff regarding how people who you influence can make meanings, albeit positive, about whatever you do and even your inaction. So that morning, I made a post on Facebook. A dot was all the post was, just a full stop, and I still managed to get about 89 likes and a handful of comments like, all the nonsense have to stop. Nigerian government, stop killing us. God's full stop is the last bus stop. Sir, should we be expecting a new poem called Full Stop? Just like numerous other times, the night taught me that branding is an emanation of success. No matter what you do, just become successful. You'd see people copy your old-fashionedness as concepts. And of course, before you attain such heights of success too, you have to show people exactly how you want your brand to be treated. How things become acculturated is for somebody popular and successful to start it. A bandwagon effect will take eminence, and next you will see a large following of people trending it. Oh, that's it. All right. Yay, NJ is in the building. NJ is one of my biggest friends and fans. This book is just on a cadre of its own. Yes, maybe. I enjoyed every moment and felt it. Thanks for sharing your life's lesson with us. Thank you very much, NJ. Dr. NJ, when are you going to be back from Lagos? Has captured you. They've kidnapped you in Lagos, have you? All right. NJ used to make Port Harcourt fun for all of us. I'm sure she would have been here if she was in Port Harcourt. I mentioned it yesterday, right?
Yeah.
I mentioned it that if NJ was here, she would have been here to hear what we are saying here.
Wow. You're just in the room.
Okay, so let's just move on to chapter. This is my favorite chapter, by the way. You know, is there are some superstitious beliefs that would linger in the crevices of his or her mind. From childhood, my older cousin Winifred and her friends made me believe that when I break a rule and I'm on the verge of being punished, plucking hairs from my eyelids and placing them in the middle of my head will definitely save my head from knocks. Whenever egrets fly over our heads, we'll stand outside and sing, "Check a lick, give me one finger." Did you do that? You
Are you
didn't?
serious?
Ah, boy, people are missing. Believing very strongly that we would find some lines on our fingernails, and most times we did. Truth is, whatever you focus on enlarges. If you look hard, you will find whatever it is you're looking for. Other popular beliefs I came across while growing up included the following: if you're about going out and hit your leg against a stone, it means you are doomed to meet with misfortune at where you are headed. If your palms, you're about to receive some money as a gift. If you unintentionally wear your clothes backwards, you're about to get effortlessly lucky. Whenever your eyes experience spastic movements, you're about to see something fascinating. 2015, the air was heavy with the February Valentine frenzy, just like now. My eyes flickered involuntarily, and then I noticed that I'd been scratching my palms and that I'd mistakenly worn my shirt backwards. I left the house with the confidence of one whose chi has prepared a pleasant surprise for. I was to travel to Lagos for an all expense paid event in 2 days. Earlier in the day, I had returned to my base from Uyo to meet my flat electricity disconnected. It's in that compound still I told you about. Something that should be blamed on the nonchalance of my neighbors who couldn't offset the bills or bribe the NEPA officials to leave our light alone. This was how horrible because this was horrible because I had the most need of the power. My parents kept whining of the fervid weather. Much as I wanted to travel on full bar, I needed to keep my figure of speech online group alive. It was my turn to rate the submissions of virtual slammers in page poetry. And the phone, in the lowest ebbs of battery life, was just bad for
Business.
I wanted you to say it. To salvage the situation, I grabbed my extension sockets and chargers and dashed off to a pet shop along the avenue. I plugged in and set myself down in the rowdy shop to start grading participating poets' scores. While I was at it, I overheard two guys arguing back and forth on top of their lungs. Ta! Rizaragoza go win. Na sure bet now. Ta! Deportivo La Corona go win. Na sure bet now. This was quite normal for spirited sport fans. The brawls and fight for bragging rights. It as well was contagious, and I became a willing contributor. What with my cage of head-to-head statistics, I called to them and made my professional analysis. See, guys, Real Zaragoza has not won this team in 3 seasons. So, in fact, they would lose 2 goals or 3 to nothing safe. One whose prediction at toss counter jeered at me. I beg you, leave that thing, Joe. You sabi say na La Liga be this. Yes, I'm a Barca fan, and I dey follow La Liga well. Now me they tell you now, if I hear Barcelona fans we know sabi Shengbai. Obviously, he was not impressed, but his opponent was convinced enough to bet exactly what I predicted as regards the particular match. I was in the same spot the next day when the two refulgent gentlemen rushed into the shop. The one who staked had won and had come to thank me. Oga, you sabi game, the game enter exactly the way you yarn. My heart swelled with pride and my grin widened. It's nothing, my guy. Flexed like a banner. In my head, I was like, oh, maybe I not go like win too. Maybe am I not the lucky guy? Maybe the superstitious beliefs for luck worked for me yesterday. I mused to myself. It had better worked again today. I had about 25,000 naira in my pocket. It was the logistics for the Lagos event. Man had an electric bill to pay. At least my folks will stop complaining and I could have at least a little extra for my trip. Make I just double my hustle, I beg. I stood up, checked the next La Liga match, and decided to stick for the teams I selected. I thought the safest thing to bet on was a 10-minute goalless draw. Since both teams had been on a goal drought in their last 3 games, I staked almost all the money I had for my trip, about 20,000 naira. In a few seconds, the match would begin, and I would win a huge sum, inshallah. I was yet to leave the counter to go back to my seat when someone tapped me. Omo, you bet that game. Omo, you bet that game. I said yes. Hey, they don't score. They don't score. It was unbelievable. I laughed. A decidedly hollow one. My shorty that they